Hello, everyone. I'm Willem.
And I am Tim.
And this is Hear Me Out Pitch. All right, well, this is the start, and you got your intro. So, welcome, everyone. We hope you're all being good, happy, and making good choices. And I'm going to let everyone know now. I think I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
I was trying to be brave. I was trying to record with...
got a little self-conscious.
I got a little self-conscious and it was gone. That was awful. It crashed and burned the second I was like, this is for an audience.
We got through a good, 20 minutes of you
chatting,
and
it was just fine.
Yeah.
And I even did the intro okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was trying to record with headphones on so I could actually hear the sound quality. But for some reason, with headphones in Willem's ears, it makes him go dumb. Don't know if that's ADHD thing or what, but it's. You should have heard me my first episode. I was stuttering.
It was very entertaining. I'm not gonna lie.
Very difficult. I tried to talk to Tim before we recorded the very first episode, and he just looked at me like I was on something. It was bad. But yeah, welcome to Hear Me Out Pitch, and we are excited for those of you who are joining us for the first time. If this is your first episode, then go back like 9 episodes because number 1's just right there. But that means we're at number 10.
Yeah, this is episode 10.
We are in the double digits.
It's crazy.
Double digits. We are doing great.
10 more of this, and we'll be at triple digits.
What?
If we hit another 10 episodes, I'm trying to math, and it's not working. My brain's not working.
That's just 20.
Sorry. Nine times what we have done.
Triple digits.
We'll be at triple digits. We do it again.
We are a 10th to triple digits.
Yes.
Math. Fractions. I love fractions. Fractions and
I'm cool with fractions. I just don't like multiplying or dividing them.
My favorite. It's my favorite. Freaks people out. They're like, oh, what's 25% of this number? And I'm just like, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just blah, blah.
Divide it by 4.
Exactly. How do you memorize that? Well, a quarter. Like, I don't know. It's weird. I like it.
But we're not here to talk about your math skills, your weird math skills.
No, what are we here? This is Tim's idea, so I'm going to let him talk about it.
Yeah, so the other night I was just thinking, and I had a request to take on the terrible movie, the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie.
What are you talking about? That movie doesn't exist.
You're right, it doesn't exist.
Ew.
I was asked to, it was a request, and I was like, no.
No. Sorry, we're not talking about that movie, ever.
But later that night, I was just thinking, and I was like, well, you know what I could do? Is I could talk to Willem, and we could do a review episode of our favorite Last Airbender episodes. And so Willem and I have compiled our top 5 favoritist episodes. And really what we're going to do is we're going to talk about them and talk about why we love them so much. And yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I can guarantee that there is going to be some overlap. I'm like 99% sure our favorite episodes are the same one.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm pretty sure.
Huh. Yeah, we haven't told each other anything.
The only thing we've talked about is there's one particular episode that we will mention. We'll probably just mention it right at the beginning after we start. That is an honorable mention, but the reason it's not going to be in our top 5 is because there is one specific part that makes it the number 1.
Uh-huh.
But it's only like a 5-minute splurge of the episode, and the rest of the episode, it's great. It's awesome, but it's
just a filler episode. But for
filler.
some reason, this part of the episode just has resonated throughout the decade and a half that this show's been around. And
I'm sure everybody listening who has seen the show can probably tell exactly what episode we're probably going to be talking about for that one. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute.
So, when Tim came to me with this idea, I was like, I think that's good that we talk about things we love. Because even though this show is about pitches, and we want to try to use that and look at that and go, why does this work so well, but not what's going on today? What have we lost, or why has storytelling become so hard? Because I'm a sucker for storytelling. I love telling stories. It's why we started this podcast. So, but yeah, we hope that you all enjoyed this episode, and we promise we'll get back to the old stuff. We just want to have a lot of stuff, have a lot of variety, so it's not just, it's another Willem pitch, or it's another Tim pitch, or they're having a discussion about a crappy movie. Because coming up into the future, guys, we're going to start watching, like, garbage movies, like, straight to DVD, Blu-ray, whatever.
I am not excited for that.
And it's going to be fun, because we're going to go, how can we make these movies better? What could have made, what ruined these movies? Really, though, I really want to get movies that had great potential, but
kind of flopped.
But once in a while, we'll probably get a movie that just is awful, and we're gonna try to Frankenstein monster that thing and just go with it. So
yeah, I think one thing we should mention. Well, there's a few things we should mention, but as a general comment about the podcast itself. Every episode is going to be different, and the way that the format of our episodes is going to change as we go, as we learn, and as we decide that we want to try something new, or maybe we get sick of one format, we're going to move on to another. And if you really enjoy a certain format that we use, for example, I'm going to throw my dad under the bus. I was talking to him earlier today. Actually, I stopped by, and he said that he wants more pitches. He wants to hear more. He loves the idea that we're doing these review things, but he wants to see more pitches, and that's awesome. I love it. I also have another buddy who he was telling me that the review episodes, they're great. He loves them, so
you'll get them.
We'll get them. We'll hit everything on the way, and if you're able to give us feedback,
we have social media. Facebook, and Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Go look us up. Hear Me Out Pitch Podcast. You'll find it.
Yeah, and you can leave comments on our posts on Facebook. Give us ideas for new episodes, new movies that we can try, TV series that we could try.
Ooh, TV series that's something I want to tackle someday.
That might be a little bit more of a process than just a movie, but
yeah.
If you have those ideas, please let us know. Give us those comments. Comment on those posts. I try to post on Facebook, on that Facebook page, every time we release a new episode. And when I release that episode and you see it, comment, hey, this is a movie that we think you guys could try out. We would love to get your opinions on these movies and why you don't like them, why you think they should change, and we can take that into consideration when we give our pitch for those movies.
And by all means, you can also email us if you want. hearmeoutpitch@gmail.com. Yeah, we're doing all the plugs right now.
Yep.
We've never done this before, and it is episode 10, so we deserve it. So
I think it's about time.
It's about time we start doing our plugs, and we'll probably start mentioning it at the end of each episode. Mm-hmm. So, again, it's been 2 months now? Almost? Almost 3. Oh.
3 months.
That's awesome. And we're still doing it, and Tim's not sick of me yet, so we're doing great.
Still rolling.
It's not like he's that far, so he can't run away.
Nope. It's kind of hard when we're neighbors.
All right, Tim. I guess it's time to start the countdown. The
other thing I wanted to mention, this is about this particular episode.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You want to start with...
2 things. Before I get into that one particular episode of Avatar, I want to preface this. If you have not watched Avatar The Last Airbender...
Oh, yes.
Go watch it. It is the epitome of perfection in storytelling.
And world building. Oh my
and
gosh.
World building. It is perfection. It is my all-time favorite TV show. I watch it all the time. I love it. I can quote a lot of it because it's just so good.
I own all the comics. I have a giant poster. I have all the artwork. It became one of my favorites. Yeah, so if you haven't watched Avatar The Last Airbender, press pause, come back later. There'll be more episodes that you can listen to. Mm-hmm. We really would want you to watch the show. It's streaming on Netflix right now.
Zach, I'm calling you out. Go freaking watch it.
Oh my gosh, Zach, you've seen the first 2 episodes. You're welcome. Zach, we know you're listening. Pause the episode right now. Stop.
He's not gonna.
Zach.
And he's going to call me after listening to this and get mad at me for calling him out.
Yeah. Pause the episode right now. I don't care if you're at work. Pause it.
Yep.
This is a no Zach episode until you watch it.
Yep.
All right.
Anyway, again, if you haven't watched it, and this applies to everybody, not just Zach, but if you haven't watched it, please go watch it. It is so good. It is, like I said, it is my all-time favorite TV show. I could watch it over and over and over. I have watched it over and over and over. And there's just so much to get out of it. It's not just a good story. It's not just a perfect story, because it is a perfect story, but it's not just a perfect story. You get a lot out of this. There are a lot of lessons to be learned from this show. And I think everybody could benefit from a little bit of Uncle Iroh wisdom every now and again. So if you don't watch it for the story, watch it for Uncle Iroh. He's just great. But yeah, anyway, so now we can get into the actual meat of the episode.
The meat of the bones.
So here's what we're going to talk about very, very first. In Avatar The Last Airbender, we learn a lot about different characters, and there's one episode that takes the perspective of several different characters and kind of splits it up into mini sub-episodes, all within the one. And this episode is called The Tales of Ba Sing Se.
Dun, dun, dun.
It is a beautiful episode. There is a lot. This is an honorable mention, by the way. This is not in our top 5 for reasons that I'll explain in a moment.
Personally, even altogether, I don't think it would be my top 5. Because of that, there's only the one thing.
There's one
that I have to just put above everything else.
There is one little story in this episode that follows a particular character, and that in and of itself is probably holds the number 1 slot for the greatest, most emotional part of any episode, I think, for both of us. Mm-hmm. But I'll get to that at the end, because it is the end of the episode. Mm-hmm. The beginning of the episode, throughout the episode, we see a lot of different little bits of character growth for some of these characters. And it's really cool to see kind of where each of these characters is at personally at this point in the show. But it's also really cool to see the humanization of Momo. That's probably one of my favorite parts of this episode. That's not the very end scene. It's great in this particular story. In this particular segment of this episode, we follow the perspective of Momo,
the little lemur,
the
Avatar's pet monkey.
And it's really cool to see how
he sees things.
And
the fisheye camera lens, and all the humans like.
Yeah,
it's just funny.
It's funny, and it's also really cool to see how incredibly intelligent he is. In all reality, he is very, very intelligent as an animal, and how caring he is. He saves a group of
puma cat
thingies that were pretty much trying to eat him.
Yeah, they were trying to eat him. They're chasing him. And they all get captured, but
he saves them before they are carted off to be eaten themselves.
Yeah, like they're all bought by a butcher, and Momo just like, and he opens up the box.
Momo is genius, and he unlocks his cage, and then he sees these cats in the back in their cage, and they're all in their cages, and they're depressed. They look scared and depressed, and they're giving him the classic big eyes.
Yeah.
And Momo kind of he turns around and he starts to leave, and then he's like, "Nah, I should help." And he goes and he frees them. And then at the end of this little segment, we see him on a rooftop with these 3 cats, and they're looking at the moon. One of the cats drops in his lap a tuft of appa fur.
Yeah, they take the tuft and
they take it. Yeah, they take it off of his arm.
They take it off his arm.
Sorry,
and they take him to the last spot, which they saw Appa.
And then Momo curls up in Appa's paw print and goes to sleep.
Oh, and it just messed everyone. I remember when I first watched that episode, I was like, oh, we're not just getting... Because I'll admit, the only section I love, and well, there's 2, but this episode, again, isn't my favorite episode. It's not my top 5. There's only one part that I'm like, there's only one reason why I ever really want to turn on this episode. Like, I have this whole particular part memorized, and, but that Momo scene, I was like, okay, that's important, especially for the episode following. Oof, that's a good episode.
Yeah. But that's really the big thing there. The final segment of this episode is the one that, in all honesty, it makes me cry every time, whether it's like out loud or just like in my heart. I am like sobbing inside and I'm just holding it together on the outside, just barely. It hits. I'm gonna let you explain that one.
Oh,
I'm gonna let you hit this one on the head.
Are you doing all right? You're thinking about it too hard?
Maybe a little bit.
So, the Tale of Iroh, and we know that probably any one of you listening here who's watched the show is going, oh, yes! Probably my favorite 5 minutes of the whole entire. It is.
It's in the top 10.
It's an important scene.
Top 5 for the most important scenes in the entire series for me.
To make a beloved character who is the patron to the main villain for the first season and just cares for him. We're kind of like, this guy's supposed to be kind of on the bad side, but he's good. And we've all just, at this point of the show, we've all grown to love Uncle Iroh. So we see him, we go, oh, what's Iroh gonna do? And we see Uncle Iroh getting ready to go on he is walking through the city square, and he picks up a picnic basket, and someone's like, oh, if you want it to be romantic, you should get this basket. And he's like, no, I just want something special. And it just keeps following him, going and just being his Uncle Iroh self. He sees a little boy crying. Yeah, he gets, and then there's, little boy cries. He sings him a song. These other little boys are playing soccer, break a window, and he's like, we should always try to, make up for our mistakes. And the owner's like, when I get through with you kids, the window's not going to be the only thing broken. He's like, oh yeah, okay, no, but this time we run, and then gets mugged. Or the dude attempts to get mugged. He has a terrible stance. Iroh corrects his stance. And he gives him wonderful advice.
Teaches the dude basically, hey, you don't have to mug people to be happy.
And he tells him that you can, go your own path and just be happy the way you are. We are summarizing it very poorly because I can't think about it too much. But we get to the final scene, and Uncle Iroh gets to a beautiful sunset, and he gets to this wonderful cherry blossom tree. And he sets up a little shrine for his son, Mako. And he says, happy birthday, my son. If only I could have been there for you in your time of need. And he sings this wonderful little song, and I'm not going to quote it or I'm going to cry.
The song is called Leaves from the Vine.
Y'all can
if
look
you
it
want
up.
to look it up, or if you know it, fantastic. But if we start singing it or quoting it, I'm going to cry. I bet you I can do it. The words are leaves from the vine. Nope. I thought I could do it. Nope. Nope. Okay, I got this. You ready, folks? Here we go. Leaves from the vine, falling so slow, like fragile tiny shells drifting in the foam. Little soldier boy, come marching home. Brave little soldier boy comes marching home. And I think the worst part about that episode, the older you get, is when you learn that was actually one of the last lines ever recorded by the actor who played Iroh. He was dying of cancer. Yep. He had cancer, and when you hear it in the show, when you hear his voice start to break while he's singing, it's not, that wasn't acting.
No.
His voice was actually breaking because his health was struggling. And yeah, no, it hits the feels. That 5 minutes hits the feels, I think, more than any other part in the whole series for me. Almost.
Well, there's another scene that woof. Yeah, well, we just got real low with that one, but that 5 minutes is a short story that is worthy of any Pixar short, if not better. It is simple, it is sweet. We laugh, we cried, and we felt emotions. That's how you tell a good story. All right, so it's time for the countdown?
I think so. Okay. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll start, so that way you finish us off at number 1. Okay. So, I need to stop clicking my pen. I did that a lot. So, number 5 for me, Crossroads of Destiny, the part 1 and 2 season finale. Is that your number 5?
That is my number 5.
Oh my gosh. All right, then we can just talk about it together. If this is exactly the same, Tim, we definitely... I don't want to know. I don't want to know what number 4 is.
I don't know if it's going to be... I don't know.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Wait, no, because we already talked about number 2s. Don't look. No cheating.
I'm not cheating.
All right, well, Crossroads of Destiny then. The part 1 and part 2 season finale of, season 2. And spoiler for the ending, Avatar Aang gets shot by lightning. And dies. And Katara brings him back with the Spirit Oasis water. And I think that is one of my favorite endings. Favorite episodes because of that ending. Of course, there's the buildup of Aang rejecting the Avatar state to state, like the building of him not wanting to accept the Avatar state. But
Yeah.
to
Well,
see...
because the episode right before is the Guru.
Yeah.
And Avatar Aang is learning how to control the Avatar state, which in essence is the most powerful state of mind and being that the Avatar can be in. Because in that state, he has access and perfect mastery over all 4 elements. 5 elements later.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later.
But if he dies...
But if he dies in the Avatar state...
That's it.
That is the end of the Avatar cycle. And the Avatar cycle, if you don't know, the Avatar cycle is every time the Avatar dies, the spirit of the Avatar chooses a new host at birth. And this new host grows up in a different nation, and they have to go through the Avatar cycle, and their whole thing is keeping balance. But if you die in the Avatar state, when the spirit of the Avatar is in control,
You're killing the spirit.
you kill the spirit of the
You
Avatar.
end the cycle. It's your most... As Avatar Roku, sorry, I always say Avatar Aang. Just Aang. Aang's past former life, he reminds Aang earlier on in that season, if we are to die in the Avatar state, that's it. We're done.
That is the end.
So for them to tell us that at the beginning of that season, like very near, I'm pretty sure it's like episode 2.
Something like that.
And then for him to get shot down and for him to like, we just see his arrow faintly glow at the end, and to see Ba Sing Se fall. Ooh, Ba Sing Se to fall. I just, ooh.
Well, and what I really like about this episode, in the meat of the episode, is that this is a turning point for Zuko. Throughout season 2, throughout book 2. It's not a season, it's a book.
Sorry, you're right.
Throughout book 2.
I am sorry. Thank you, Tim.
Zuko is more and more listening to Uncle Iroh. And he's changing. His motives are changing. And in one of the episodes, in one of the last episodes of the season, Zuko finds Appa underground. Uncle Iroh confronts him and says, "Your destiny is shaped by you. Who do you want to be?" And Zuko, instead of capturing Appa or killing Appa, he sets Appa free, and then he gets sick because there's an inner conflict inside. His demons and his soul, they're fighting against each other. The good in him and the bad in him are fighting over him. And in this episode, he lets one of those two rule. He lets one of them win.
He had the 2 dragons. It was portrayed as 2 dragons early on, and he chose the bad. He went with trying to capture the Avatar, and it was a great... Oh, and that too broke my heart. I was like, dang it. Mm-hmm. He chose, and Uncle Iroh is disappointed. You know, Iroh is captured.
Iroh's disappointed. Katara is furious because Katara had just had a heart-to-heart with him.
Ugh. Both had like...
Crystal Catacombs.
Ugh.
Then Zuko made his choice. And Uncle Iroh, the most caring, loving, supportive man in all of history, I think, can't even look at him. Like, he looks away. He refuses to look at Zuko. And we see that later on as well when Zuko... Spoiler alert, when Zuko goes to visit Uncle Iroh in prison, Uncle Iroh won't even look at him. And Zuko gets furious.
Initially, but it did take a while for him to look Zuko in the eye. It was...
Mm-hmm. I don't think he ever did when he was in prison.
No, when he talks to him about the crown.
Oh, you're right.
I've watched this way too much.
You're right. About the... Yeah, you're right. It's a beautiful twist in Zuko's story arc. And in all honesty, I think my favorite story arc in the entire series is Zuko's.
Yeah.
It is the perfect representation of a redemption arc. This is redemption. This is forgiveness. This is repentance. This is all of this perfectly visualized in this show through this character who is a moody, angsty teen who his whole goal is to seek honor and to seek the praise of a very toxic parent. His father is extremely toxic, and being the Fire Lord, I guess that has... It makes some semblance of sense. But
he was like that before he was Fire
Lord. He was
Lord.
100% like that before.
No, I kind of tell people that I, in some way, argue that this show is Zuko's story. He has the most screen time after Aang. And honestly, I feel like he gets way more love in his character development than Aang. Half the time, Aang is just a silly, goofy boy. But Zuko is the one who everything is about him growing. Every scene is about him becoming new. One of the first episodes, we see Zuko fight a general and
General Zhao.
Yeah, General Zhao, and take advice from his uncle. Like the conflict. We'll go on for hours, but that's how you write a good redemption arc. This show, take notes, people. He is, I would say, yeah. Well, I think that concludes at number 5. All right.
Yeah.
What was your number 4, Tim?
My number 4, I have to say my number 4 is Sokka's Master.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think Sokka's Master is my number 4. And this episode, the reason it is my number 4 is because when I worked at Lifeline, I taught these kids, and these kids were troubled youth, and they were going through really hard times, and
bless you.
One of the big struggles that these youth have is that their self-confidence and self-worth is at an all-time low. It's almost non-existent half the time. And for this episode, I would make these kids watch this episode, and then we would have a really good conversation about it afterward. And I would make sure that these kids understood that they are like Sokka.
Can I just say really quick that because you've mentioned before you can't talk about religion, and me and Tim are both Christian, but you can't bring up religion at your work, but to know that you used Avatar: The Last Airbender, it just shows to me that you can bring anything out of it. Fred Rogers was a great example of life 100%. Lessons.
100%.
And I feel like you can use a lot of analogies in everyday life. There's so many Disney movies. I could go on forever about life lessons I learned from Disney movies as a little boy. Before I truly understood the dogma of my religion, I was more like, I should be more like Hercules, or I should be like the Iron Giant. I should choose who I am, sort of thing. Like those type of lessons I learned. So I think that's really cool that this show has such good stories and such good, what's the word? The morals. Mm-hmm. The moral of the story is that you can use in your everyday life. And I think that's good. If you don't believe in God, if you don't have anything guiding you, I feel like stories are definitely something that can help you. And I don't feel like there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with trying to emulate Spider-Man. There's nothing wrong trying to emulate Superman. They might be fake, but the lessons that they teach are real. So,
yeah. I mean, out of anybody, I think I'd want to emulate Uncle Iroh the most.
Uncle Iroh.
But,
But I would want a redemption arc like Zuko.
I can agree with that.
That is my goal.
I can
My
agree with
redemption arc in life is going to be
I can
my
agree with
redemption arc in life is going to be Zuko.
One thing I do want to say, I think Iroh had a, and this is just my own personal speculation, but I think the big reason that Uncle Iroh teaches Zuko so much is because Uncle Iroh had his own redemption arc at one point.
We do not know what he was like in his youth.
No. Well, what we do know is he was a ruthless general who attempted to take the city of Ba Sing Se by force.
But like,
and
was
failed.
he like super ruthless? Like, we don't like. I know he probably was just smart. He probably didn't sacrifice soldiers willy nilly, and then maybe so. I want to know what he was like, because people are like, "There's a lot of war crimes." I'm like, well, in their opinion, they were just trying to take over this country. They were brave anyway.
Yeah.
It's so many things. We're like, he was probably evil before. I'm like, I don't think you can have that. I don't think you can change that crazy. He was not like Ozai. Anyway.
No, but I do think that.
But I do think he probably had some
his own
moments.
Redemption arc of sorts, right? I mean, I feel like that's partially what led him to help Zuko so much.
Yeah.
Probably because he
no
saw
one else would.
a lot of himself in Zuko. Maybe, I don't know.
I want to know.
I want to know.
Maybe in the future we will get more. Avatar Studios is cooking up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
October 2025, people. We're getting the movie. 2025. I will be right there in the theaters. I'll be buying
right there with you.
Okay, we will go.
We'll go together.
I'll buy a whole first row. I've done it before.
Yep.
Oh.
But yeah. Anyway, so Sokka's master. This particular episode. It is very heavily focused on Sokka, which is great. We don't see enough screen time of Sokka, I don't think, and of his own personal character development. We see him being goofy and being Sokka, right? But we don't see very many serious moments with him. We see a handful. For example, anytime that he's talking about his mother, or he's talking about the Fire Nation raid on his village, or during the invasion, the Day of Black Sun, right? He took charge. He was a leader, and he was very serious. But most of the time, he's not. This episode takes Sokka as a character, this goofy, wild genius, and gives him his own episode, and it's great. We start the episode with a meteor, and it's so cool. And this meteor crashes and lights the ground around it on fire, and
everyone
Team
else
Avatar
takes care of all the flames.
Takes care of it because they're benders. They have magic.
Except poor Sokka.
Except for Sokka. Sokka is told to babysit Momo. And then Momo does more to help put out the fire than Sokka does.
He just feels worthless, and he
feels worthless and dejected, and
I know that feeling. Just seeing everyone else excel, or like everyone's doing real good at one thing and you're not good at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we've probably all been there at some point. And that's why this episode, you're able to connect so well to this episode, to Sokka. Because we've all been there. We've all felt so worthless. We felt like failures. We've all felt like we weren't good enough. When we hit those points, we need to find the things that we're good at. That's what this episode teaches us. Sokka's sister Katara and Aang and Toph all talk about how the things that or the reason that they're able to do what they do is because they had masters. And so they talk about, hey, let's find you a master. And so Sokka goes to Master Piandao's mansion. Master Piandao is a great swordsman. A little bit of his story that we don't ever see in the show. He's the son of 2 firebending prodigies.
Oh,
but he's a non-bender.
I did not know
and so
he was
he was shunned, and he was basically cast out from his family. And he was stuck like that until he found his passion as a swords master. And then he took that up, and he became the greatest swords master in the Fire Nation, in the world.
I don't know if there's anyone.
No, I don't think anybody could beat him in just a raw sword fight. Anyway, so
I'm getting a little old to fight the Avatar. So what are you saying exactly? When you were young?
Yep.
Anyway,
right?
Sorry. That scene always gets me. I'm like.
But one of the things about Master Piandao is he's been at this for a long time. He's an old man at this point, not quite as old as Iroh, I don't think, but he's got some gray hairs, and he's retired. He used to be a Fire Nation general, and now he's retired, has tons of money, and he's able to train people from all over the world. And he's heard it all before. He has young sword fighting prodigies come to him, and I've traveled the world. I've practiced with the blade all my life. Yada yada yada. And Sokka hasn't. He has traveled the world, but he hasn't practiced with a blade all his life. In fact, one of the things that he says is, Master Piandao basically says, you're not doing a very good job of selling yourself. Sokka is explaining that he's not. He doesn't feel like he's worthy, and Master Piandao is like, okay, we got a humble one. That's what I want. And so he offers to teach. He accepts the role as teacher for Sokka. And through the episode, Sokka learns how to put his creativity, put himself out onto the battlefield. One of his very first tasks is signing his name. It's very simple. He just has to take a paintbrush, and he just has to sign his name on the paper.
Okay, to be fair, it was supposed to be calligraphy style.
It was.
And in most, I'm going to say Asian ways. I don't know what to say. But calligraphy in any way is incredibly difficult. And he has to have. So I could never. I hated cursive. I could not imagine calligraphy.
Cursive is terrible.
So, but
yeah, no. And that's the whole thing, is calligraphy with a pen, you can't take back any stroke.
Nope.
And Master Piandao says this. He says, on the battlefield, you cannot take back a stroke with your sword. Once you've struck, and you have to roll with it. And so Sokka's like, so I just have to put my identity on the page. Mm-hmm. And so he... being his creative self, being himself, he paints his face and smashes his face onto the paper, leaving his face print on the page. And it's extremely creative. It is a very creative way to leave your mark, right? If we had signatures like that in real life, it'd be hilarious. And it'd be awesome.
Can I get your signature shirt? Sure. And just slams face into ink pad.
I'm imagining a doctor's signature would just be like a very quick.
Doctor, it shows you have a lot of concussions. Yeah, I've been signing stuff all day.
Yep. But yeah, anyway, so that's one of his tests. Another one of his tests is he has to paint. He has to paint a landscape. And he only has a few moments to take in the landscape before he's turned around. He's not allowed to look at it again. And he has to paint. He has to paint it. And so he paints it. And he adds a rainbow. And
it just looks like a little kid drew it.
Uh-huh.
You added a rainbow. Is that a bad thing?
Is that okay? He adds a smiley face to the sun.
Smiley face to the sun and everything.
And
I'm like...
It was just creative. It was fun. It was cool. And then Master Piandao says, basically he scares Sokka by saying, everything you did wrong. But you did it wrong in your way, and that's what matters. And
he was just himself.
He was just being himself, and that's what Master Piandao wanted, right? And so Master Piandao tells him, we're going to make you a sword. You are going to make your sword. And he's choosing the material, and then Sokka's like, can I get my own
material?
Right? Because Master Piandao wants it to be, this is Sokka's sword. He has to be able to trust the material with his life, and it has to be something that is unique to him. It has to fit him. And so Sokka's like, yeah, can I get my own material? Can I bring my own material? And Piandao says, I wouldn't have it any other way. Oof. Right? And so Sokka goes and gets the freaking meteorite from the very beginning of the episode.
Oh.
Right? He pulls it up, and then they work it, and they end up making a sword out of a meteorite. Like, how freaking cool is that? I want a space sword.
Oh no, but what's the best part about the sword, Tim?
It's space sword.
Oh no, what the color?
Oh, it is a black blade.
It is pure black. It is so cool. Okay, fine. I guess that was my interest. He pulls out the sword, and I was like,
my interest is, my favorite part is just that it's space sword.
Okay, I love that it's black. He pulls it out, and I'm like,
being a black sword is really cool.
Fine, I guess I loved it being a black sword. Whatever.
Yep. But yeah, anyway, Piandao gives him the sword and says, basically he's lifting him up and telling Sokka all the things that he is. And then Sokka is honest with Piandao and says, I'm not who you think I am. I'm from the Water Nation. I lied. And I'm sorry. And Piandao says, I'm sorry too. And then they have an epic sword fight. And the Avatar and the other members of the gang, of Boomerang Squad, they get in, they jump up, and they want to fight. And Sokka's like, no, this is my fight. Right? Sokka's taking ownership for this, for all the mistakes that he made, and it's awesome. Right? It shows a lot of character growth for Sokka so far, just in this one episode. And then they fight, and Piandao is being very supportive as they fight to the death.
He's being a teacher. They're fighting in these bamboo stalks, and Sokka's cutting them all down. He's like, good, using your advantage, using
the terrain to your advantage, using your
whipping the bamboo sticks,
agility against an older opponent,
and it's just great. Blinds him with sand, and he's
very resourceful,
and yet he's
and Master Piandao's been at this for a long time, so he still beats Sokka. But when Sokka is beaten, Piandao sheaths his sword and says, I'm a little old to be fighting the Avatar, right? He knew it from the moment that Aang stepped in there, he was the Avatar. But the point of this episode is that this is about Sokka, right? Mm-hmm. This is about us as well. When we are struggling with finding our own individuality, our own self-worth, when our self-confidence has gone down the drain, we need to remember what we're good at. And that is one of the things that I taught these youth all the time. I think I used this lesson probably once a month.
Aww.
And it was just so good to be able to see these kids and be like, and I would talk to them, and we would talk about the things that they're good at and why they're good at it and what they can do with these skills. And it was just so cool to see one of my favorite characters in all of cinema, right, on the big screen, to see a little bit of that one of my favorite characters in each of these kids that I used to teach. And I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in friends that I've taught this lesson to, and that is why this is such a powerful episode for me personally. It's just such a good episode.
That's a good number 4.
Uh-huh.
Mine is completely... My number 4 was... Oh, man. I don't think I can top that. Mine was Lake Laogai.
Okay.
Lake Laogai is my number 4. It, to me, is one of the best action sequence. I just love the... So the premise of this episode, Appa has been kidnapped. Avatar... gosh dang, I keep calling him Avatar Aang. Because that's his title. Aang's Sky Bison, the way they've been getting around the whole world, the thing that flies them everywhere, has been kidnapped. They don't know what to do. We've had this build-up. It's been revealed that Appa is in Ba Sing Se, and Long Feng, the Emperor's advisor, is like, I have your bison, and if you do not stop, you will not get him.
Basically blackmailing the most powerful being in the world.
And it's just like
with the Avatar's best friend.
Yeah, it's and
not a good
and I
idea.
think that having Jet, a character that was previously in the show, he's been brainwashed by the secret police, the Dai Li agents, and it's just a terrifying episode how much control the city has. There's no war in Ba Sing Se. There's so much what's it called when you control the media? Oh no.
I'm not sure what word you're going for.
Oh, the government does it. Oh my gosh. They censorship.
Yes.
Severe censorship. It is a good episode to watch. It reminds me a lot of 1984. Great book. Mm-hmm. Everyone should read it. Terrifying book, but Ba Sing Se is a great example of like, this is something that could happen. That too much power, too much control is terrifying, and it really scares me. Jet has been kidnapped, they brainwashed him, and now they're going to use Jet to try to distract them and trick them into leaving, and then they all realize later on, and the gang is kind of hesitant because Jet's kind of crazy, wants to kill the Fire Nation because of what happened in his past, and they realize he's been brainwashed. They all work together, they go to the bottom of Lake Laogai. And that's where we have the great scene we talked about earlier of, they get to a door, the door opens, we see Appa, but it's not the gang at the door, it's Zuko. And that's where we get the powerful speech, from Uncle Iroh. It's who are you and what do you want? Throws down his swords, and we're all just like heartbroken and happy, and we're confused.
Zuko lets go of the blue spirit, his alter ego, his vigilante, his Batman.
His Batman.
He is letting go of his Batman.
He's letting go of the blue spirit, which we'll talk more. I promise we'll talk more about the blue spirit thing. Okay. And then we have the final fight between Avatar Aang and the gang and Dai Li agents. They're fighting, and at one point it is Jet, Aang, and Long Feng all alone in a room, and Long Feng looks at Jet and goes, Jet, you have been invited to Lake Laogai by the Emperor. And Jet goes, I am honored.
The Earth King.
The Earth King invites you
to
You've been invited? I don't remember the word.
Something.
Oh, we should start writing these down. Sorry, folks. Deal with
whatever.
it. It's been a long day. You've been invited by... The Earth King has sent you an invitation to Lake Laogai.
Something like that.
And then they go, I am honored to be invited by the Earth King. Hello, everyone. Just wanted to give an editor's note. The quote that me and Tim struggled so hard for is, the Earth King has invited you to Lake Laogai. And the response would be, I am honored to accept his invitation. Thank you. Something like that. Oh,
and the brainwashing,
and then they become a sleeper agent, and it happens to Jet. They start fighting, and Aang is like, "You gotta fight it. Remember who you are. You're a freedom fighter." They're fighting, and
remember
Jet,
who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah, remember what you are and what you stand for. And Jet has these amazing blades. I don't know the proper name, but they're hooks. They have blades around the handles. They have a spear point at the end. He can connect the two and whip them around. And he is giving Aang, like, the thing is, if you get close to Aang and he doesn't blast you, or if you get too close, I really believe you can, if you get into a Airbender's circle, it's dangerous for them. Because they can't, and no.
Yeah.
That's not true. They dodge, but he's giving Avatar Aang like, "Ooh."
He's giving the Avatar the runaround. Like,
Yeah.
this is a tough fight, especially since this is one of Aang's friends.
Yep. And so Aang's holding back a little, but still it's scary. There's a few close calls, and he finally is like, remember who you are. You're a freedom fighter. And Jet has the flash, and he remembers his family, what he stands for. He remembers
the family he's built.
And he attacks Long Feng, and holy crap, he misses, and Long Feng
kills him.
He sends a pillar, and it's just implied that he
dies.
He paralyzed him, yeah. And he ends up on the floor. You know, Katara tries to heal him, and Jet's like, you guys got this, I'll be fine. And Toph, who can sense if people is lying.
He's lying.
He's lying. And, you know, we never are confirmed... But
it's heavily implied.
It's heavily implied, and it was confirmed in the little special edition that they did on Nickelodeon. They were like, just to be clear, Jet did die, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
Jet died. He died, not being brainwashed, and
he died the way that he should have died, being a freedom fighter.
And going up against going up against Long Feng is like, instead of trying to fight just the Fire Nation, he fought even a worse enemy than the Fire Nation.
He fought one of the most corrupt beings in the free realm, in the free world. That
villain, Long Feng, is probably one of the scariest next to Azula and her father. It is. He Azula, was so good.
In my opinion, Azula is number one.
Oh yeah.
Then Ozai, then Long Feng.
I really might say Ozai just because of how powerful. Anyway, but in the end, you know, they're chasing Long Feng. They've got him. They think they got him cornered. And all of a sudden, Dai Li agents appear. They're literally boxed in, and all of a sudden, Appa comes in. Boom! Breaks down all the barriers. They threw all the Dai Li agents. They throw Long Feng away, and the episode ends with Aang hugging him and says, "I've missed you, buddy." And it just ends right there, and it's just wholesome. And it kind of stinks because the sting of Jet is kind of taken away, and we kind of forget about him, especially after the next couple episodes because we're more focused. Yeah. But
I mean, we are reminded later in the Ember Island players.
Yeah, Ember Island players briefly. But I think this episode, again, I love going through all the emotions, laughing, kind of tearing up, anger, happiness, seriousness. I love and so in 22 minutes they just, and they
had us, and it was good.
It's a great episode, and it ends so well. I cried so hard when they finally were reunited. Yeah, the love for an animal and owner is great. All right, so episode 3. All right, so my episode 3. Yeah, because I start on all the odd numbers. Sorry, mathing is math. My next episode, funny enough, because we mentioned him briefly, is the Blue Spirit. That is,
I had a feeling.
It's one of my favorite. It is the only in my top 10 really of book 1. Book 1. Book 1 ain't my favorite, but Blue Spirit just it just it just hits. I love it so much. I love so brief summary. Aang is trying to get frogs for Katara and Sokka, who have become sick. He has to get these socks, who he was advised from old frogs. What'd I say? Socks. He has to get socks. Ew. He has to get frogs, as advised by an old medicine woman, for them to suck on them, and they have to be frozen for them to suck on, so they could feel better from this weird fever they've had. They get kidnapped by this group of elite archers from the Fire Nation, which that scene was so awesome. These guys can allegedly hit a fly from 1,000 yards away and not kill it. Like, that's how good they are. They chase Aang. Aang is like blowing the arrows away, but near the end, they've got him pinned in the lake. They shoot the arrows, and he's trying to freeze the water, and finally a net goes around Aang. And I was like, these guys are nuts. So Avatar Aang is captured, and General Zhao is like, we're just going to hold you here till you die, and then we'll just go get the next one. Keep you to your old age. And it's just terrifying. And then, lo and behold, we have the Blue Spirit. random dude in a black outfit with a blue mask and two broadswords. Not broadswords, just dual swords. They're twin swords. They go together. They work as one. Spoiler alert, it's Zuko, but we don't know that. But this blue spirit goes, and they work together, and the escape scenes are amazing because this blue spirit doesn't use any firebending. There's one point where all he uses is a bucket of water to take out 3 guards. He takes out 2, and then there's just 3 left at the door, and he comes around the corner, knocks one out with a bucket. One dude goes to firebend, douses him, and knocks them both out. Takes out his broadswords, gets through the gate, cuts Avatar Aang out. They work together, and there's just this epic part where they're cornered. They're cornered at the gate, and Aang's like, "We're trapped, no, dang it!" And General Zhao's like, "You're surrounded, surrender." And the blue spirit takes his 2 swords and threatens to cut off Aang's head. And we're just like, oh. Oh. And he's like, "Open the gate." And as they're backing away, General Zhao has one of the elite arrow archers snipe the blue spirit. Lucky for him, he was wearing a metal mask. And dun dun dun, the Zuko. And Zuko wakes up, and Aang just looks at him and goes, I had a friend in the Fire Nation as a boy named Kuzan, and we were best friends. Do you think if there wasn't a war, we'd be good friends? Zuko gets up, fire bends at him, and really that's the end of the episode. Both go to bed exhausted, and it's just a simple episode. There's nothing any more simple than it's a jailbreak. This mysterious figure turns out to be Zuko, and to me it was just a great example of doesn't have to be super crazy of a story, just 15 minutes of just fun fighting, jailbreak epicness, and that's really it. It's just my number 3 because I cannot get enough of the Blue Spirit. It's one I watch over and over again. I love it.
I like it.
Just short and sweet. I know it's my number 3, but I don't need to explain it that much. It's just
it is a good episode. It's
epic. The arrow shot, I was like, oh my gosh, if this was not a PG TV show, because the mask knocked him out. He was out cold, and Aang rescued him. He could have left him. He was thinking about it. It's just cute, and we're starting to see the confrontation of these 2 young boys.
Mm-hmm. Aang is 12. Like, he's 112, but he's 12.
He's 12.
He's 12.
And Zuko, I think it's
16,
only...
I think.
They're 15, 16.
15
yeah.
or 16.
So they're like 3 to 4 years apart, but still you're just a child.
And
you're just a teenager.
They do end up becoming best friends.
Friends.
Which is awesome.
Ugh.
But
yeah.
This is a really good... I do like this episode. That scene in particular where Aang is debating leaving Zuko, and then he doesn't. He rescues Zuko. Like, this is a theme in the Avatar series, that Avatar Aang is one of the most gentle, kind-hearted, merciful people out there. Mm-hmm. And this is a perfect description, a perfect show of his mercy and his caring for others, even his enemies, right? Like, that concept in a moment.
Oh.
Not in a moment. It's not my number 3, but
oh,
I have a feeling our top 2 are the exact same.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right.
It's good.
Well, then I am curious. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is The Storm.
Okay, my sister mentioned that one last night when I was talking to her about these, and she's like, "I love this," and I'm like, The Storm doesn't even cross my mind a lot, but it is a good. The more I think about it, it's a good one. But for me, I think there's so many episodes later on that completely make this episode
almost obsolete.
But it is one of the first. I'm glad you had it, because I was because I almost mentioned it in my episode 3. Because anyway, that's perfect. I'm so happy. Perfect.
No, yeah.
Oh,
This
good.
is one of my favorite episodes. And the reason for this episode being one of my favorites is very similar for the reasoning behind Sokka's master.
Okay.
This is another one of the episodes that I would show the kids at work, and we would have a really good discussion afterward. Another one of the issues that these kids struggled with all the time was accepting the past as it was and moving forward with the future with who they are and who they want to be, and allowing the past to kind of kickstart them into the future rather than hold them back. And that's something that we see in The Storm. This episode is all about the backstory for both Aang and Zuko. This episode shows us who they are, where they came from, why they are where they're at. For Aang, we learn that he discovered that he was the Avatar 4 years early, and that his training as a 12-year-old was super rigorous and difficult because he was the Avatar, and because there was a war brewing, right?
Isn't he also like a prodigy too? Because he got his airbending tattoos.
He got his airbending
because he mastered it, and that's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
He mastered airbending super, super young. If you've seen The Legend of Korra, he mastered airbending younger than Jinora.
Mm-hmm. And
she is a prodigy.
She looks just like him when.
Anyway, yep. So he's super upset about it, but Gyatso, his mentor, basically says, I'm going to make sure you have a normal childhood, as normal of a childhood as you can, as the Avatar. And the other monks, the monk leaders, don't want to have it. Their whole thing is Aang can't be a normal kid because he's not. He's the Avatar. The world doesn't need Aang. The world needs the Avatar. So they threaten to send Aang away. They say they're going to send Aang away to another air temple. And Aang overhears this and runs. And he goes and he runs away. He grabs Appa, he writes a note to Gyatso, and he flies out into a terrible storm. At the same time that Aang is telling this story, Uncle Iroh is telling Zuko's story to
the crew of their ship.
This is all taking place
during a storm.
During a terrible storm. Hence the name The Storm.
Dun dun dun.
Iroh explains that Zuko wanted to be a part of the war meetings and called out one of the generals for sacrificing soldiers
at the front line.
To draw out the Earthbender soldiers so that they could eradicate the Earthbenders.
Such a terrible tactic.
Zuko calls him out and says, "That's not right. Those are innocent men. You can't just slaughter them.
We can't just slaughter our own people."
And the Fire Lord gets super upset, and basically, because Zuko had spoken out, he had not only disrespected the general, but doing so in the Fire Lord's war room had disrespected the Fire Lord, his own father. And so they have to fight an Agni Kai, which is a firebending duel, and it's not explicitly explained whether it's a duel to the death or if it's just a duel to incapacitate the opponent.
So, I'll tell you, because I've read a bunch of comics, listened to a bunch of things, and looked it up. The Agni Kai ends when someone is burned.
When someone's burned.
Burned. So that means you. And so some people though were killed. Like they are down and they're just engulfed.
Okay.
And you are killed. So you can kill them and engulf them because firebenders can deflect most fire and they don't get burned. To get burned as a firebender is kind of like
you kind of have to be incapacitated.
And it's also just a sign of weakness if you really think about it. Like getting frostbite as a waterbender would probably be insulting.
Yeah,
to suffocate as an airbender would probably be insulting. to get crushed by rocks as an earthbender would be insulting. So to get burned, that shows that you are weak.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
there you go.
no, you're good.
That's how an Agni Kai is settled.
Okay.
You just have to be burned.
I appreciate the clarification.
So it could just be. So I could just get you on your ear and burn your earlobe, and the fight would be over. But most of them want to leave something. A mark.
Which Zuko gets. When Firelord Ozai, or not when Firelord Ozai, when Zuko gets up to fight this Agni Kai, he turns and he's not facing the general that he had insulted, but he's facing his own freaking father, the Fire Lord. And he refuses to fight his own father
because he loves him.
And he doesn't want to fight his father, right? He doesn't want to fight the most powerful being in the country, right?
It wasn't meant to insult his father. It was meant to he was just speaking out. And if I can point something out that my little sister said, because she loves, again, this is her, I think this is her favorite. She said, I love this because Zuko looked up and faced what was going on, but Aang ran away.
I've never thought about that.
And it made me realize like the two difference, because Zuko might be the villain and he might be petty, but he faced everything head on. Aang, as loving and gentle as he is, he ran away.
Yeah.
He would do that with a few things. He doesn't like confrontation, and he would just and that was both their kind of their downfalls. So anyway, wanted to give that point.
That is a really good point.
Breaks my heart now.
Your sister is fantastic for that point.
I know. We'll have to. I know. We need to bring her.
But yeah, so Firelord Ozai basically says, if you're not going to face me, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And so Zuko looks at his father as his father burns him. And his father fire bends right into Zuko's face. Basically, fire punches him in the face. And leaves a gnarly scar all over his face. And it is gnarly.
Do you want to know something sad?
What?
And this is a hot take from Willem.
Okay.
One of the things that made that scar even worse was that he was crying very hard. So when the fire came, he got scalded by his tears, and it spread out and made it even worse.
Huh.
I'm pretty sure that I read somewhere that that's one of the reasons why the scar was so everywhere.
So bad. Okay.
It's so, if you will look around where his tear ducts are, it is just...
It's bad.
It's worse.
Okay.
So look at a good detailed image of his scar, and it'll make. If
only this poster had.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
But yeah, if you look at some of the episodes, it looks like that right where his tear duct would be is completely worse, and it's because he was just crying.
Okay.
So depresso espresso moment for you.
Okay. But no, yeah, I love that. I love this episode because it teaches us about these two characters. And at the end of the episode, we see them both accept what has happened in the past and use it to propel them forward. Aang, right, during the storm...
the current storm, right?
During the current storm.
Okay.
Is telling Katara about his past, while Sokka is out on a boat with some random dude who had an argument with his wife about the coming storm and about fishing. And Sokka went with the old man to go fishing for payment, and the old lady stayed behind. And she comes to the cave that Aang and Katara are at and basically says that her husband and Sokka are not back yet, and that the storm is really, really bad, and they're probably in danger. And so Aang faces his fears. He faces the storm, which I feel like is very a very good representation of him facing the storms within himself.
Yeah.
Right. The storm he ran from is now the storm he's facing, and he goes out into the storm on Appa with Katara, and they save Sokka and the old fisherman. Zuko, on the other hand, his whole thing started when he fought one of the helmsmen.
Mm-hmm. They had an argument, yeah.
Or fought one of the crewmen.
It might have been the captain.
I think it was the captain.
It was the captain.
I think it was the captain. They had an argument about the safety of the men versus capturing the Avatar. And Zuko had said, the only thing that matters is capturing the Avatar. Basically saying,
I don't care about your lives. All I care about is the Avatar.
But then, at the end of the episode, the helmsman, right? The ship gets struck by lightning, and the helmsman up steering the ship is blasted off the side, and he's hanging on for dear life. If he lets go, he's dead. He's gonna die.
You let go. You fall off a ship without any harness. You're gone. Even with a harness, you have. Yeah,
it's not likely.
Not good.
But Zuko puts aside his petty feelings toward the captain, and he and the captain climb. They climb up to save the helmsman, and it shows the helmsman that Zuko does kind of care, and it's really, really good. And they see in the eye of the storm, right, in the calm, which on the ocean, the eye of the storm is the most dangerous place to be because that's where all the water is being thrown around.
But on the ocean,
on land, the eye of the storm is the safest, but on the ocean, it's not. That being put aside, because this is a fiction story, the crew and Zuko see Appa above them flying in the eye of the storm, and Zuko and Aang make eye contact, and Aang keeps flying on, and Zuko, or the captain asks Zuko, "What are we doing? What do we do?
Do we follow?
Do we follow?" And Zuko says, "Let's get to safety."
Oh,
right, and it's just such a good episode. It's so good. I love this episode just because it shows a lot of character growth for Aang from his backstory to the present, and from Zuko from day to day, as well as from his past to now, and how driven he is to perform the tasks that he has, right? Mainly to capture the Avatar, but also like he's got to take care of his crew.
We learned about Zuko's backstory. We learned about both their backstories, and we learned that they both weren't always like this. Aang was kind of because Aang never wanted to be Aang didn't want to be the Avatar. Zuko wasn't always this angry brute. He was this young boy who wanted the best for his nation, and now all he cares about is his white whale. He doesn't care. Oh, such a good episode.
Yeah. Well, and one thing to note about Aang, right? In the first episode, and you said this, in the very first 2 episodes of the whole series, we learned that Aang didn't want to be the Avatar.
Yeah.
Right? Katara straight up asks him, "Why didn't you tell us you were the Avatar?" And Aang responds, "I never wanted to be."
Yeah.
But now in this episode, which coincidentally is the episode that comes right before the Blue Spirit. That's why Katara and Sokka are sick.
Oh, and because they're both freezing cold, Aang can stay warm because he's an airbender.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
So
we're going down good episodes to segue each other.
But Aang never wanted to be the Avatar, but now in this episode, he has accepted his role as the Avatar. He has accepted his destiny given to him by all-powerful beings, whatever, right?
The universe,
the Avatar spirit, Rava. He has accepted that role, and he's rolling with it now. He's going to push forward. He's going to perform his duties to the best he can. And it's just so good.
So good.
I really love this episode.
All right, number 2.
I think I'm pretty sure our number 2
is the same.
Sozin's Comet?
Yeah.
Sozin's Comet,
so, again, I don't know if we mentioned this, but anything that is like a part, we are just combining it. So, Sozin's Comet, the whole 120 minutes.
120 to 140, because I think the episodes are 22 to 23 minutes.
Yeah. So, the movie of a series finale, me and Tim, for some reason, have it at number 2.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that.
I can guarantee 100% now that our number ones are the same.
I'm
These were the two that I thought.
All right, I'm really curious. So, the series finale.
Uh-huh.
How about? Man, I don't know how else to explain.
I don't know.
Just really quick to summarize. I don't know. Just the big defeat. So maybe, what was your favorite scene?
My favorite parts were mainly Aang's desire to defeat but not kill.
Great. I loved that confrontation the whole time.
And this is something that Aang has had to face for the last 10 episodes. Right? I forget what it's called.
Day of Black Sun?
No, the episode before. The one where Aang is sleep deprived. Is it?
That's just dreams in like something. It's
something
like daydreams, and I'll look it up. You keep talking.
Something. Aang is dreaming about how he has to face the Fire Lord and how he's afraid, and then later we have another episode. I believe it is the first episode of Sozin's Comet. Zuko confronts Aang and says, or Aang says, killing is never the answer. It's the episode, the Southern Raiders.
Oh,
when Katara and Zuko go out to
and he asks
get
him,
revenge.
"What are you gonna do?" He's like, "Because they learn about vengeance is not the correct way." And Avatar and Aang, I keep wanting to call him Avatar Aang.
Zuko says,
"What are you gonna do?
What
about
are you
my
gonna
dad?
do about my father?
The Father,
the
Lord.
Fire Lord,
the Father
Lord,
the Father Lord."
Right, and this is a conundrum for Aang. How is Aang going to defeat the Fire Lord without killing the Fire Lord? This is the most powerful firebender right now, except maybe Iroh. I think Iroh and Ozai are pretty neck and neck.
Nightmares and daydreams.
Thank you.
I was like something. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. That's a really funny episode.
That one, because the Puppet Master before is very scary, so it's a great way to like. It's a nice little pillow to go. Huh. Anyway.
Yes. But yeah. So anyway, this whole issue with Aang, and Aang is struggling with this inner conflict. How is he going to defeat the Fire Lord without killing him? Right? And so eventually a lion turtle shows up.
Lion turtle
shows up.
As big as an island. It's huge.
It is an island. Gargantuan creature that basically its spirit calls to Aang, and Aang sleepwalks and swims to the island, and then the island vanishes.
And it's not revealed to us until the end of part 3. The end of part 3. So he has spent part 2 and part 3 on this lion turtle, and then
he is talking to his past lives, meditating to talk to his past lives about how to defeat the Fire Lord, and he talks to Roku, and Roku says, "You've got to kill him."
All of them basically are like.
Well, here's the funny thing. He talks to Roku, Firebender, says you got to kill him. He goes back to Kyoshi.
Don't be decisive. Do it.
Do it. Just do it.
Just
freaking
Shia LaBeouf
Nike
moment.
This.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. And he's like, I knew I shouldn't have asked Kyoshi. Then he goes back to Kuruk. To Avatar Kuruk, who is a waterbender. And he says, you've got to do it.
You got to do it. Don't go. You can't just go with the flow, dude. You need to just.
You're the Avatar. You have to face this.
Don't end up making a mistake. Like basically, he's like, you got to do it.
And so he's like, well, maybe if I ask an airbender, someone who has the same ideals that I do. And he asks Avatar Yang Chen.
Have you read the book?
I haven't.
You need
I want to.
It's so good. Anyway.
But he asks Avatar Yang Chen, and he's like, everybody's telling me to kill how do I defeat the Fire Lord without killing him? What do I do?
And
she's like,
you're the Avatar.
you are the Avatar. You are a sweet, gentle soul. But the Avatar or the world needs the Avatar.
Yeah, you need to be the Avatar and separate. You have to. You can't.
And she's basically another Airbender who has the same ideals that he does. Is like, you've got to kill him.
I'm pretty sure she's killed. She hasn't in the books yet, but I'm pretty sure this next one she's gonna do it.
Okay.
So yeah. She's awesome, but she definitely goes against. There's a few parts where she has to go against the Avatar code or the airbending way of things, and she's like, "I'm the Avatar. I need it." Kyoshi's book. Sorry, we can't. No, we'll talk about that later.
We'll get to that later.
So, yeah. And then he has to go to a source that's older than even the Avatars.
He goes to a source, the source of the Avatars. Basically, the whole
source of bendings.
The source of bending, the source of magic and power in this world.
But that's not shown until Korra, but still.
It's not, but it is explored later. He talks to a lion turtle. The island that he's on, he talks to it. And there's a massive lion turtle, basically a giant turtle with the appendages and the head of a lion. And he talks to the lion turtle, and the lion turtle's like, as the Avatar, your duty is balance. And you've got to do what you got to do, but there is a way. And he teaches Aang a 5th type of bending, energy bending. This is the most powerful form of bending in the series.
Because it was, and they expanded on it in Korra.
They do expand on this in Korra. This is the form of bending that gives the other forms of bending their power. Right? This is the type of bending that can give or take bending away.
It's such a good scene.
And Aang ends up facing the Fire Lord. They have their massive fight. The very end, I love the fight. The fight is beautiful. And when Aang has his chiropractic moment, it's awesome.
What do you want from your chiropractor moment? I want
that.
I want what happened to Aang.
What happened to
Whenever I go to my chiropractor, every time I go to my chiropractor, what do you want today, Willem? I want my Avatar Aang moment. I need you to just woo!
Like that was
reawaken the Avatar state in me.
That was good. But I think the capstone moment of the series for me was this moment when Aang defeats the Fire Lord. He has the Fire Lord pinned to the ground, and he is about to kill him, and then he says, "No, this isn't the way." And then the Fire Lord gets up and he tries to kill Aang, and Aang expertly maneuvers and traps the Fire Lord, pins him in stone, basically in
like shackles,
in stone shackles.
Gets him on his knees.
And then he energy bends. And
hand on his head, hand on his chest.
It's a finger on his forehead and on his chest. Mm-hmm. And they have an inner conflict. They fight each other. Their spirits fight each other. And Aang overcomes the evil of Ozai.
I think it was more of... Well, of course it is evil, but I would say it was more of the will. Because because the lion turtle says to him, if you do not have your purpose set, if you do not have a will to this, if you are not strong enough to do it, you will be consumed.
You will be destroyed.
When you are...
And he's in the Avatar state at this point, basically. This is like a forced Avatar state. If he lost, the Avatar state...
I don't know. I don't even want to know what would have happened to Ozai.
I don't know.
Would he have absorbed it? Like, it's just, we don't know and we never will. And let's hope that it never...
Yeah. But anyway, Aang overall, in the end, triumphs. And he beats Ozai and takes away firebending. He takes away the Fire Lord's firebending permanently. And that is a perfect to an antagonist. That is the perfect way to defeat an antagonist. And likewise, we also see when Zuko and Korra are fighting against Katara
Katara.
are fighting against Azula. Azula is absolutely insane at this point. She
Broken
is
down.
crazy.
Oh, such a great.
Her psyche is shattered. She is hurt mentally and emotionally. She's gone.
Great.
And
Just
it's awesome.
it's a great way to show a deterioration of a strong character.
And
We could probably
see-
talk about this whole
we
4
could.
episodes for an hour, but
We
we're gonna try really hard just to. You've all seen this, except you, Zach. I know you're listening. How dare you?
The one thing I love about this fight, the Agni Kai, is two master firebenders at this point. Azula, a prodigy, and Zuko, having learned from the oldest source of firebending how to master firebending, have a duel. And they fight, and Zuko, trying to save Katara, his new friend, right? At this point, they're new friends. They haven't been friends for very long, right? And he tries to save her from a lightning blast from Azula and gets zapped himself. And then Azula chases Katara, and Katara chains her down the same way that Aang chained down Ozai.
Very similar. It's very mirrored. It's so, and it was so. Do you know those two are the only two characters who really, really like tried to kill each other? Like I know Azula tried to kill other characters, but there was a scene in Crossroads of Destiny. Katara was flinging blades.
Katara was trying to.
She was gonna kill Azula. And people are like, no. It's like no.
No,
Katara didn't care.
Katara at this.
She was defending herself.
Katara was out for blood at this point. Maybe not intentionally.
But
she was.
When you're in a fight for your life, you're in a fight for your life.
And this was also a really good show of Katara could have killed Azula easy, right? When Katara froze Azula and herself in the ice and chained up Azula, she could have killed Azula so easily.
I will say that the only thing that I think why no is because when Zuko was covered in ice, they can melt things. And I think Azula, if she would have, I think Katara had to act quickly and get the chains around her, because if she messed up in any way, if there were no chains.
I'm talking about after the chains.
Oh,
after
I thought
Katara
you were
has
saying
Azula chained
when she was
down.
frozen, she could have killed her. I'm like, no. That's why she had the chains, because Azula would have.
After Azula is chained,
Yeah, she definitely could have killed her.
she could have killed her.
It could have ended it.
But no, Katara had learned a thing or two from Aang, I think.
And I don't think they wanted. They just felt so bad
kill.
too. She was broken. Oh,
Yeah.
Thing is, she's not one of my favorite. Like, okay.
She is
I have
one
a
of my
love.
favorite
I have a
villains.
love-hate relationship with her. But
I hate her as a person, but she is such a good.
But
villain.
yet, I love her at the end of the
She's
series.
such a good villain. But yeah, and then the final wrap up where Zuko is crowned Fire Lord, and then he and Aang, being best friends, are now they present peace to the world in front of everybody, and then Aang gets his kiss with Katara.
Aang is great.
And it was a beautiful end, especially when in Uncle Iroh's tea shop at the very, very end. It was just, it's such a beautiful end to, it is a perfect ending for a perfect series.
The swell of the orchestra. It's so everything you've talked about in this episode, those are like my favorite parts. But one thing you missed, and I need to stress of why this is like number 2, is the reuniting of Zuko and Iroh.
Yes, I totally missed that. Yes,
I know we are. To me, it is such a great. It is such a good. I could go off about. I have had many discussions about this.
Zuko is the prodigal son.
I thank you. That's exactly. That is. Thank you. I was like, I'm too scared to say it, but no, it is the story of a son who has left and abandoned his father, and he returns after a series of mistakes. But I just love the scene. I have it in my wallet, the phrase that Iroh says to Zuko. But in short, Zuko and Iroh have finally united.
I am not mad.
I was just scared that you had lost your way.
But
you found it again. And it's just so sweet. And Iroh is asleep. Zuko is sitting there patiently waiting. He wakes up and Zuko immediately starts bawling. He's like, I am so... And not even gets the...
He can't even finish his sentence before Iroh is...
That was his father.
Him. Oh, yeah. Ozai was Zuko's father.
Iroh
is his dad.
Yeah.
I mean...
Oh, okay. Do you know that part when they're on the beach and he's having memories? You know the scene where someone's holding a baby up?
Uh-huh.
That's not Ozai, Azula, and Zuko. That is Iroh holding Zuko with his son Mako running around. A lot of people, I originally thought it was that, but when I get older...
I always thought it was, and then I found that out.
I found that out a lot, and I tell people sometimes, and people just cry. And I'm like, yep. All right, so number 2. We could have got... The thing is, that episode itself, I don't know, because that's more like a movie, and there's so much, but there's one episode that if I were to randomly have... If I had to just show anyone one episode, just one.
This is the one.
And I'm kind of... But now I want you to say it, because I'm scared. What if it's not the same?
It's got to be the same. Zuko alone.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Zuko alone.
Zuko alone. The perfect...
This is the greatest
I
episode.
Apologize for my outburst.
That was very loud.
I really was like... Is it the have we talked about it before?
No.
I don't think we have.
No.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So this episode to me would be the perfect episode to show someone. Go, absolutely. Why do you love the show? Bam, this one. Dude, what's going on? All you know is it's an abandoned kid, Zuko, riding in on a horse, an ostrich, rides into a town. It's a perfect just Western. Rides into a town in Earth Nation territory in the middle of a war. No one knows he is. He has a scar. And there is a corrupt police force running this town, taxing everybody. He befriends a little boy whose family has let him in to do chores and all this stuff. And Zuko's thinking about his mom a lot, thinking about his past. But just... Oh,
this episode shows 2 things. Zuko.
It shows the main character of the show.
It shows Zuko's character arc as a whole, from start to finish, in a single episode, just briefly. And 2, it shows another side of the war. It shows the tyranny within the free nations. This shows the tyranny not of the Fire Nation over the other nations, but of the Earth.
There's tyrants everywhere, and to just label one nation as villains is dumb.
Yeah,
there is good and bad. That's it.
There are bullies within all nations, and that's, and I just feel like Zuko, having grown up with a bully, his own sister being such a bully to him, I feel like he doesn't like bullies.
Well, his dad was a bully.
His dad was a bully. And Iroh taught him to respect everybody. You don't have to like people, but you need to respect them. And I think Iroh helped Zuko, along with Zuko's own trauma, helped Zuko learn to face bullies and not let the bullies bully. Not let them win.
And this is this is something that I always freak out about, is this is the only character who got his own episode. Because and I'm talking about, of course we have flashbacks, but all those characters are in the past. Yep. We are not getting current events of any other character throughout this episode. It literally says Zuko alone, and they meant it.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any other episode where a character gets that.
Sokka's master, he still had his friends. The Avatar was still there.
They even have a moment where they just show those 3 goofing around without Sokka.
Talking about how much they miss.
How much they miss him.
But it's still like This is Zuko.
But Zuko just all by himself. And I look at that episode and I'm just like, this is whenever I restart the show, Tim, I start with Zuko alone. I don't even watch book 1. I need to get better at doing it. Yeah, I start with Zuko alone. I watch
it from the beginning.
I
have it open on my phone because I have it downloaded.
I have it all on Blu-ray.
I have the first episode is open on my phone because I started watching it again today.
Oh.
Yeah,
I always start with Zuko alone. I love book 1, but Zuko alone and up is where I go. That is where I watch.
Zuko alone is the greatest episode for the sole purpose of showing us who Zuko is and what this story is about.
And we get a whole. It might be a cliche Western. He might, he fights the bad guys in the end. He's not firebending. He's using his swords. The big boss dude is using 2 hammers and earthbending, so he's unmatched, not equalized. Mm-hmm. And finally, he accepts who he is. He uses firebending, knocks the dude out, and he says, "Who are you? I am Zuko, Prince of the Fire Nation." And then...
An heir to the throne.
And the whole town turns on him. They're like, that's not true. You're an outcast. And now that you're the Fire Nation, get out of our town. And it's so sad. And the episode ends with just him leaving.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And this little boy that he had come to befriend and teach how to fight.
Little Lee.
He had taught Lee and become really good friends. And I think Lee began to look up to him as a brother. And who... sad, this is depressing, but Lee's own brother, his older brother, had been conscripted and was killed in the war. And now he has a new brother who is teaching him things that he never would have learned on his own, and who's helping him overcome his own troubles. And he just feels so betrayed.
I'll be honest, I've always imagined that Lee's dad, because his dad goes to try to find him on the front lines. I always imagine they find each other. So, and that's just my happy ending. But it is heavily implied that his older brother's probably going to die.
It is heavily implied that his older brother died.
And his dad is like, "I'm going to go try to save him," and you're just like, oh. And so the mom and Lee are just abandoned, and it's just the perfect, and it just fits. Reminds me a lot of the old cowboy movies, old samurai movies. It's just in 22 minutes we get, again, it's like the Blue Spirit to me. I just love it. It's simple, and I'm so glad it's your number 1 too. We have not talked about this show. I swear, no. I think we've talked about the show, but we never talked about which episode was our favorite.
No, we've talked about our favorite characters, our favorite moments, but we've never talked about our favorite episode.
That's so funny. That's so awesome. Yeah, Zuko alone. Oh, whenever I want to talk about a simple, good story, I really turn to Zuko alone and what they did. Because again, I've said this many times tonight, to me, I think a good story makes me have a roller coaster of emotions. I laugh, I cry, I smile, I get angry. When I get all those emotions, I consider that a good story.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And the thing about Zuko alone is there's no villain. There's no real villain. Obviously, there's the bully. But this is about Zuko and Zuko overcoming himself.
And we've barely breached upon it, but we do see his mom disappear, and it was traumatizing. And it's such a good... I recommend everyone to just somehow watch that episode. You can watch that episode without watching this show. Zach, go watch Zuko alone.
I'm going to keep calling him out.
Going to keep calling him out. And anyone else, if any of you have listened to this today and you have not watched Avatar, sorry for all the spoilers. You brought this upon yourself. We hope that you will look into the rest of the show, because we honestly haven't even scratched the surface of this show.
This is my comfort show.
It is one of mine as well.
This is the number 1 spot. It used to be Doctor Who. I love Doctor Who. Great.
Never watched it.
Great episodes. Super fun story. Super unique. Then it was Phineas and Ferb. Classic, silly, just good show. Now, over the last probably 5, 6, maybe even 7 years, I don't know, this has become my favorite show because of just the beautiful storytelling that is Avatar: The Last Airbender. This story it hits every mark to be a good story and more. This show is this is how I want to be able to write in the future, right? These pitches that we've been giving, I think one of the really important things to know is that in order to give a good pitch, you have to have a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And Avatar showed us how to do that. Avatar showed us how to have a good story.
It definitely is a show that has so many life lessons in it. And just like Tim said, to have a good pitch, we have to have good stories. And this podcast is mostly about stories. We want there to be good storytelling again. We want to start seeing good stories being told, because stories are what are going to be passed down to the next generations. Stories will live on even when we don't.
Stories are our history.
Mm-hmm.
Take Lord of the Rings, for example. Everybody knows Lord of the Rings, at least to some extent.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Most of our culture, as Americans, at least, is built around what has come from these shows.
Oh, Star Trek? Oh, the amount of technology that we've tried to emulate because of science fiction and
Yeah.
Well,
it's just super good. And I think that, again, this is my favorite show of all time. If it's on a TV, I will be watching. I'm sorry, but I will not be paying attention to you talking to me. I will be paying attention to Avatar. It's just that good.
It is that good. And 2025 can't come sooner enough.
Yeah. I mean, I'm worried, but at the same time, this is Avatar Studios. They are not...
They're not shackled by network studios anymore.
Nope.
They have their own place. I don't know who they made the deal with, but they
can tell their own whole story from start to finish. They don't have to break it up like they did with Legend of Korra. It was good. Legend of Korra was okay. I don't hate it.
It's better than most shows I've watched.
Yeah.
But when you compare it to Last Airbender,
when you don't have the time to tell a good story, then it struggles. And that's
the problem with Korra is what I see with the last 3 Star Wars movies. The same thing, just kind of rushed. No one's communicating well, and
it feels broken up.
And you just don't. Yeah, we can go on for hours.
Yep.
And we told you guys that someday we were going to talk about Avatar, and today was that day.
Yeah. I'm really glad we did, because this was fun.
This was fun. I think this is going to be a very long episode, and you know what? That's okay.
Zach will be happy.
Zach will be happy.
Except
he's not allowed to watch this. He's not allowed to listen to this one. Well, everybody, thank you, and we hope that that number 10 is a special episode for us, and we hope to someday be at number 100, and we hope that you all join us for all of that.
Till next time, we'll see you later, pitches.